Alright, for the first part of the project, we are going to build the base. For the base, you will need the base piece 1, base piece 2, the servo, 2 screws, 2 nuts, 1 servo screw, an Allen wrench, and additionally you will need either a small screwdriver, glue, or just hand tighten when we get to that point of needing a screwdriver. Alright, so let's go ahead and move some of this stuff out of the way so that we can attach the servo to base piece 2. Alright, so the servo inserts from the top of the base piece, and the servo shaft goes in the center. So we can have a good radius at all points. And then we put the screw through the bottom into the hole to mount the servo. And on the other side, we place a nut and tighten it down. And I'm going to use the Allen wrench to help tighten that. Alright, and do the same thing on the other side. Insert the screw from the bottom and place the nut on the other side. Alright, so once you've tightened down the servo to the base piece 2, it should look like this, and it should be firmly mounted onto it. Now let's bring in base piece 1 and attach base piece 2 to base piece 1. The way we do that is you place the servo shaft on the pre-positioned servo horn. Let's go ahead, and it doesn't matter which orientation you do so, and it should fit snugly, and you should be able to move it back and forth without a lot of wobbling. Let's take the servo screw, and this is where I say that you can use glue or your hands to tighten it. So instead of a screw, you could use glue and place a drop of glue before placing the servo horn in. But keep in mind that it may be a little bit hard to correct yourself. So I'm going to use a screwdriver and tighten the servo screw to shaft. Alright, the base is complete. Alright, so go ahead and take your servo, and we're going to mount it to the arm extension 1 piece. Let's go ahead and put this in here. You want the servo shaft to be as far to the edge as you can possibly get it. So that is in this orientation. And then let's take some screws and mount it the same way we did as in the base piece. Alright, let's tighten down the other one. Alright, we are done assembling the arm extension 1 piece. So for this next little bit, we will need a screwdriver, both the base piece and the arm extension 1 piece, and a servo screw. Keep in mind, like in the previous, you could use glue or your hands to tighten it. Alright, so let's go ahead and attach that. So you want to attach it to where it has its full range of motion. The slit in the bottom is where the wire will go through, but for now we want that to be at the bottom. So let's make sure it has its full range of motion. You want it to be able to touch here and also go all the way up. So see, that's not all the way up in the upward position, so I'm going to rearrange that to be in an upwards position and make sure it can complete its full range of motion. This will be important for the arm function later on. Let's go ahead and tighten it down and attach it with the servo screw. Alright, once you feel it's tight enough, again, make sure that it has its full range of motion, not to the extent that it strips the servo, but enough that you are confident and it can move its full range. Alright, for this first part of arm extension 2, we will need your arm extension 2 piece, your servo, your Allen wrench, two screws, and 2 nuts. Let's go ahead and attach the servo, and we are going to attach it to the bottom part of the arm extension 2 piece. Unravel this. And similarly, the servo shaft is going to go as far towards the edge as possible. And we'll insert the screws. Okay. Alright, so now let's go assemble the gripper. Alright, so now that we're on the gripper, you need your previous arm extension 2 part. You also need the parts out of your gripper assembly bag. You'll also need 9 screws, 9 nuts, 2 servo screws, your servo, an Allen wrench, and the small screwdriver. Alright, so let's get started, and I'm going to move some of this stuff out of the way, and we're going to attach this servo first. Alright, so the servo attaches to the other end of the arm extension 2 part, and it will go in this orientation with the ledge upwards of the servo shaft. Let's go ahead and attach it with screws like we did in the previous assemblies. Alright, so now that you've tightened the servo on, it's time to attach the gripper components. So first you will need G1, so the part name, and it is the one that is a gear with the servo attachment on it. So you attach this to the servo, and you need to make sure, just as in previous servo connections, that it can go from 90 degrees to the top. So just make sure that your servo has that range of motion, because it will be needed. Let's go ahead and attach it with the servo screw, with the screwdriver, or glue, or any other device you have to attach it. Now that's attached, we're going to attach G3. So that is the primary gripper component. That is what is visible from the outside. We're going to put it through G1, not G2. So you'll notice that some of these parts have indentions, and those indentions are meant to conform to the shape of the nuts as you screw them in, and keep the component from unscrewing all the way, so that when it turns, it will turn back to the same position, rather than unscrewing or tightening as it turns. Go ahead and screw that in. Make sure that it's loose enough. Test that you can move your part back and forth, and you'll see that as I move the part, the nut stays in place. Okay, so let's go ahead and attach the centerpieces. Those will be G5 and G6. There are 2 of each of those in your kit. You'll need one that does not have indentions, and then one that does have indentions. So you'll place the one that does not have indentions at the top. Okay. And then you will place the screw through a G5 part, through a hole in the center, and it will go into a G6 part with indentions on it. Go ahead and tighten that. Maybe a little hard to get clearance with some of the other parts around. Just use your Allen wrench to kind of go against the force of other objects. Alright, so it should be tightened in place into the indention for the nut, and you should be able to move it back and forth pretty freely. Let's go ahead and attach that to the G3 part. Attach this, and one goes on top and one goes on the bottom. And you'll insert a screw through G5, through G3, and then lastly through the indention in G6. And go ahead and tighten the screw. Again, it should be loose enough to move the whole system freely. Should have a limited range of motion, but it should be able to move. Alright, so let's go ahead and attach the other gear, so that will be part G2. You'll notice that it has a full indention in the top, and that is for the nut to go into. Let's go ahead and make a similar angle with the midline as G1 does. About there is what I'd say. I'm going to insert a screw through the bottom and up through G2. Let's go ahead and tighten that down. Keep in mind that some of these parts, it may be kind of hard to get the screw through because it is not a perfect fit, but you can use the Allen wrench and screw through it with the screw to make room. So there should be enough clearance for that. And you should be able to move it slightly. Okay, so now let's go into the G4, and we will attach that just as we did G3. We'll attach it as a mirror component, placing the screw through G2. Alright, let's go ahead and attach G4. Keep the indention on the underside of the system and tighten that down and place the nut into the indention. And then tighten that fully, utilizing your Allen wrench. Okay. It should move freely. If it does not move freely, loosen it just a bit, just as we did in the previous pieces. So now let's attach G5 and G6 pieces to this side. So you'll need the one without indentions on the top. Let's go ahead and move these to a center position so that it is easier to not interfere in here. And if your gear is like mine, where it does not completely line up, go ahead and move it 1 notch or 2 notches on the gear head. So yeah, I'm going to just attach it for now, and attach it to the arm extension 2 piece first. Okay, and then place the G6 piece underneath. Alright, there should be some movement. Now let's go ahead and attach that to G4. Okay, let's tighten that down. Alright, now your gear system should move to an open position and a closed position. Be careful, the center parts are a little fragile, so it is preferred to do it when the motor is running. So now let's go ahead and attach it to the previous piece that we had. So we had arm extension 1 connected to the base piece. Now we're going to attach arm extension 2 to arm extension 1. Okay, in a similar fashion to the previous times, you want to make sure that you have the full range of motion. So right now I don't have the full range of motion, and I want it a little bit past the middle, and I want it to be able to go all the way down to its lowest position. Alright, so let's go ahead and tighten that in. You'll need another servo screw and your screwdriver. Let's go ahead and tighten that down. Alright, now you've completed your arm assembly. Let's go to the wiring hardware.